So hello everybody, let's go with the cheesy jingle. I don't know if you can actually hear that. Yeah, I always puts a little smile on my face, the cheesy jingle. So we're very excited to have Looby with us today. And I've not really, I mean, I do talk about permaculture sometimes in my writings and share the old video here and there. Um, but it's great to have Looby here with us, who's written this incredible book I'm going to share with you straight away, People and Permaculture. So I know a lot of you probably don't really know what permaculture is. Probably a lot of you actually do know what permaculture is, but we're going to try and helpfully inspire you to see it in a different way, not as like a dogmatic way, but as a tool, no, for integrating and living a happier life in the end, no, Luby. So welcome, Lou. Thanks so much for agreeing to be on this recorded conversation. And let me just say a little bit about Looby. That Looby's um, probably one of the first people to really bring this idea of permaculture as being related to people. And she's been in this movement for over 20 years. She's written 4 books. Was this your first book here?
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
this is the
Yeah.
first book, and then there's other books, Cultural Emergence, which we'll talk a little more about this, and and of course, what I'm really interested in is this aspect of play, but to take it from a different point of view all the time. So I'm always really interested, Luby, in making a strong case for play because people think, oh, that's just for kids, right? And of course, it's not. So let's just dive into this straight away, and then we'll take it away in all other sort of directions. But what's play for you, Luby, and how do you play?
Well, yeah, I play is really, really valuable in my life and on my courses. And my journey with permaculture started with play, I would say, on the permaculture design course that I did, which is an internationally recognised course to really begin people's journey with permaculture, which I did in back in 1999, and I was doing it at the same time as my mainstream university degree, and I was doing it over weekends. So the contrast between what I was doing on Saturday in my permaculture design course compared with what I was doing Monday to Friday in my university degrees couldn't be more different in terms of how we were learning. In terms of like my human sciences degree was a lot of ecology and anthropology, and development, and there was a crossover in content, shall we say, but in terms of process, in terms of learning, they were miles, worlds apart from each other. And one of the key differences was the playful learning on the permaculture design course, where we were learning through games, we were laughing in the sessions, we were invited to really bring solutions, bring creative solutions, not like, oh, you've got to have a really well thought out, well researched, referenced idea here. Like, no, what do you think of what, gauge your imagination. And it was just so wonderful. I remember we were doing a game where we were all lying down, laughing, and then we were just as a warm up to the session, and then we were just like, oh, do we have to get up? Can't you just leave us here and do the session? And our teacher was just like, oh, go on then. Okay, you lie down, and she got up and she did the notes, and you wouldn't get that in a university lecture. You might fall asleep in a university lecture, but you're not supposed to. And so, just the whole fun of learning was brought alive to me in a way that hadn't been present in my entire mainstream education, maybe in small pockets, but not in any significant way. But that was really the profound difference that made me excited to carry on with my permaculture journey. It was like,
Mm.
okay, this is colourful learning, this is fun, this is interactive, participatory, this is honouring the beginner's mind, it's inclusive, it's like everyone's got a solution here. And all of that made the learning environment so engaging that it almost didn't matter what I was learning. It was just how I was learning that was really like, wow, this is exciting. And then at the end it was, we were invited to say, well, what would you be your, your long-term vision? And don't say kind of, well, with permaculture, and don't say what you think is possible, or what you, or by therefore don't say what you think is impossible, just say what you would like to happen. And that has been a really significant reframe for me since, ever since then. It's like, just like, what would I like to happen? And then I was just like, kind of like, well, this has been so fun. Wouldn't it be fun to become a permaculture teacher? And I said it's almost flippantly, but I was kind of like, yeah, actually, if I'm talking about my heart's desire, this was so much fun. I'd like to carry on. And then the universe listened and provided me with opportunities and pathways to do that. And play has always been so much part of my courses ever since I've been teaching, especially when I do like the teacher training, because then I'm inviting everyone, we get everyone doing games. So it's like lots of creative teaching methods in there, and lots of game playing. But in all of my courses is, and I'm bringing in more song now as well,
Mm.
as a way of not so much play, but that enjoyment and that serotonin, like the community asset building aspect, and that doing something that maybe people have been told, oh, you can't do, or that sort of, I can't sing or I can't draw. And it's just like, no, we can all be creative. Let's really engage our creativity there. And I think that is really what's needed in the world at the moment, is to engage our creativity, and allow us to have some agency and some imagination of what the future could look like, rather than the trajectory for the dystopian futures, which is what we're kind of fed culturally a lot. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot there. So much there. Um, so um, I've talked to lots of people about how to make even contexts that we don't think could be playful, because somebody might think, well, that's all good because you're in the nature. You could, of course, you be playful. It's like university though has to be very serious and one of the things that I'm interested in like that. And so I've spoken to teachers that made their maths lessons um, very, and history teachers that they've sort of prepared. They've had like two sides. They're all like, history is all about wars, basically, right? So you've had like two sides, have the Romans and the Saxons or whatever they are, and they just stick with you. And I remember also seeing a biology teacher um, making a huge representation of the human body with balloons as lungs, and really, and these, they stick with you. This is what you were saying. The lessons, you really get them in you. So I'm a big fan of Ken Robinson and his work, on changing the education paradigm, right? But I think we agree that yeah, we learn better. We learn better when it's more fun, when it's more playful, when we're focused on the people that are learning and what questions they come with, and just having a much more flexible, open mind to it. Um, and one other thing that I talk about a lot, in let's say in play theory, we have different play personalities, and not everybody is like the class clown, let's say. Or, there are some people, they're more like a collector, they like to collect things, they like to know the names of everything. Other people, they like to move a lot more than others. Some people like to be central attention directing. Um, and some people, they like to be really exploring. And I think the more we activate all of this, we actually embrace all of the different play personalities. But it's coming from our strengths, when we were little kids and what we used to do as little kids. So, Luby, do you see what you're doing now as like very connected to like how you were also like as a little girl?
Yeah, I do an activity sometimes, which came from the book Participatory Workshops of sharing the river of life, your river of life, beginning of the courses. And one of the significant things that I share from my childhood was about being a girl guide and being round the fire, singing songs and playing games around the fire. And it's like I've now gone full circle, and that's a really key part of my courses, is being around the fire in the evenings. So yes, I do see that connection with what I enjoyed as a child and what I'm doing now. Definitely,
Mm.
definitely, yeah. I'm
This is
thinking,
always a message I bring to other people because we see other people's lives. We think, oh, it'd be what how like, but it's we all have our story and we can trace back and see it and feel how it was to live that freedom of being on your bicycle or collecting wildflowers or whatever it was, and how to translate that to how we are now, because it's in everybody's interest that we're really doing the work that we're supposed to be doing. And so many people just aren't, and it's just they're bashing their head against the wall essentially. And and like you said, I could be a permaculture teacher, right? And for me, I was reading. There's a man who he left a big imprint on this whole playfulness movement, Bernie de Koven, and I was reading his book Deep Fun, and I was thinking, wouldn't that be so cool to like hold workshops and hold groups around all these games and things, right? And that's where life is bringing me, and this is what I've been doing in the last few years. So yeah, it's like that excites me, and it's almost there's this feeling of like, can I really do that? And so we're encouraging people to say yes, right? And so let's make it very. I want to bring it down so it becomes very practical and grounded, right? And what I'm actually enjoying a lot about people and permaculture is really this whole design process, and it's just so really well thought out and very deep without being um, um, pokey, or making people feel bad or in a difficult position. Um, just I'll, I'll actually want to ask you how did this book come about? Like, what were you working on? Like, what processes were you going through? And was it really just like, I mean, all books, when we go through them, we discover a lot as we're working through them, obviously. Um, but what was the initial impetus, and how was that whole process, Luby?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So just going back to what permaculture is, because maybe, as you say, some of the listeners either don't know about it or have a preconception that permaculture equals gardening or
Yes.
farming. And what I realised was that, well, there are three ethics of permaculture: earth care, people care, and fair shares. And that's really the very heart of permaculture, is how do we move towards those individually and as a wider society. And a lot of the attention has been on the earth care, and that was the original permaculture was permanent agriculture, like seeing how we can mimic nature's systems that last in perpetuity. And I was like, well, where's the people care? Like, where's the focus on people care? And where's the book? And actually, the same process that made me become a permaculture teacher, of sharing the long-term visions, then was like, oh, it'd be nice one day to write a book about the people care. And then it was like, well, actually, I was like one day, and maybe someone else will do it, and then it was like, okay, maybe it's me, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll do it when I'm a perfect person. And it's like maybe the world needs it before I'm a perfect person, and so I reframed it to I'll learn more people care in the process of writing, and I wrote it because as I was saying earlier, it was the process of learning permaculture that was really exciting rather than the content. I didn't have my own garden at the time. I had a little patch in somewhere I was renting that I could garden, but I wasn't going into permaculture with any aspirations to be self-sufficient or anything. But what happened for me was such a profound shift in thinking and being, that I wanted to carry on. And I also observed that same profound shift in other people that were in the permaculture movement. And it wasn't a shift of I just know how to garden more and I'm growing more lettuces now. It was a real shift in how we see the world, and how we interact and how we feel that we have agency and that we're contributing to the solutions, and that we're part of a bigger movement, and that it shifts how we interact with our family and how we look after ourselves, and all of these profound shifts that were happening with permaculture practitioners. And it was like that story hadn't been told in literature. It was all about what do you do, how do you make compost and raise beds and no dig and forest gardens and all of that, which is great, and we need all of that, and I enjoy all of that as well. And there's more that we do need to shift how we're interacting with each other, with the more than human world, to make the shifts into the great turning, or the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. There's various terms around that shift, the regenerative futures, and so that was my impetus for writing People and Permaculture. Was like, yes, okay, like how can we actually focus on the people care ethic and increase our people care skills, because also we see that the limit to earth care and earth repair is always people, whether that's on a small scale of, oh, I can't do I haven't got my own health and well-being to garden, or my relationship dynamics mean we can't make a decision, or there's politics between our neighbours, or there's national policies that prevent us doing things, or the whole international politics. It's all about people that stops our earth care and our earth repair. So in permaculture, we turn that around. We flip the limits into design focus, and so it's like, okay, people are the limit. Let's turn that around and focus on people care. So, and then the third thread of why I was doing it was also because not that everyone has first-hand experience or wants first-hand experience of earth care. Not everyone is interested in gardening or has access to land, but we all have access to people care. We all need to look after ourselves on many levels, and we're all, we're the vast majority of us are in interaction with others and caring for other people, whether that's friends or family or neighbours, or so we all have direct first-hand experience and first-hand need of people care. So those were the three things. It was one, the vibrancy and the profound shifts that permaculture can give us. Two, it's that people care are the limits to earth care, and three, it's making it more relevant to everyone. So I crossed the threshold of like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I was really using all the tools to design my process and to really ensure that those tools were supporting me. And I wrote the book from that crossing the threshold and getting the contract with my publisher to it being in my hands. was 2 years, which is actually quite
Quite fast.
it's actually very fast. I didn't realize that at the time, but now I'm like, how did I actually do that in 2 years? Because I also had two children, young children at home, and obviously I had loads of support from my partner Chris. But it was still a big undertaking to do that. And yeah, so the design web, which you were asking me about, I created during writing People and Permaculture, because a lot of the yeah, and that's the design web on the front there. And yeah, thanks for showing that. And I wanted to create something that was more of a poetic acronym than some of the other design frameworks that are used in permaculture, like Sadie Met and things. And it was just like, oh. And then while I was actually playing with the different, do we call them goals or visions? So the different letters, and playing around. And then it was like, do ideas come before visions? How do these things interrelate, the different stages? And that was where the design, I actually drew a web, and I was like, it's not linear process, it's a web, it's a web of connections. So that was how the design web came about initially. And then I did play with it. I spent time watching spiders, and I spent time with cards on the floor, and using it, actually using the design web to design the design web as well. And I think that is why it's so appealing and successful for people as well, is because there's that playful aspect in there, and that it invites our own creativity, invites us to be playful ourselves when we're using it, rather than I've got to design and it's all serious. It's like, okay, let's play,
Yeah, yeah.
see what
So
comes
what
out.
is the difference there? Because it's very subtly this difference between I've got to do something and have it being playful. Is it just enjoying the process? It's how do you see it? Because I think this is a very important point to understand.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is about our internal dialogue. What's happening on the inside? Do I have to do this? Because even if you have that internal dialogue of I have to do this, of like, oh, I have to do some creativity, or I have to do artwork. And we see that a lot with people, don't we, where they were really enjoying art, and then they did it for like an exam, a GCSE exam or something. That's UK, but wherever, it's taken all the fun out of it, and they don't like it anymore. They might be very good at it, but they don't enjoy it anymore. So part of it is the internal dialogue, and as you say, where's the shoulds and the boundaries, and oh, you've got to do this now, rather than paint any picture you want. It's like, no, you've got to do this landscape, and it's all this still life picture of this bowl of flowers, and it's got to be accurate, rather than an expressive mural on the wall, or
And the
anything.
result comes the same. The same, we get an excellent result, and that's the thing that I tried to get across, that perhaps we'll arrive in a slightly different destination, but it will feel better to us. So it's not just about being superficial, and this is something I struggle a tiny bit with getting across with playfulness. But it's not about being superficial. It's really coming with more of yourself. So what is a playful? What's a playful inner dialogue then, Luby?
I love that, they're coming with more of ourselves. And I think that is, so there's the internal dialogue, and then there's the body, isn't there? What's happening in the body? Is the body engaged in this? Does the body feel relaxed, energized? It could be relaxed or energized, both of which are it could be playful rather than tense. So once we're in a tense, that blocks our creativity. It no longer feels fun. That's, so there's the internal dialogue, there's the body awareness, and then there's the, also I would say, the interaction there as well. Like, who are you interacting with? Whether that's the landscape, whether it's the colors on the page, whether it's other people, there's an interaction there. And does that feel easeful and collaborative and joyful, or does that feel forced and pushed and like, oh, like
Yeah,
is there
and
a
your focus, you know,
listening?
focus space. Mm. So I'm also very curious, Luby, with so what did you discover then with your with this work on people care? Like what were the big things that surprised you almost? Like even like simple nuggets. How can we be it's like um be becoming more kind. Okay, so what does that mean? Or what did you discover that what is it that what is it that where we can put most energy to um to be more careful of people. That's a bit of a weird way around of saying it, eh? But
Wow, that's a great question there. So how what are the surprising nuggets? Um, hmm, that's I mean, there's the power of gratitude really comes is one of the first things that comes to mind there of how transformative that can be, how much of peacemaking that can be, and again that bringing us into a different space, of bringing us into a heart space, and then yeah, I think just the power of people, the power of when you give someone agency, when you give them just a few tools that they can shift their thinking. I mean, that was what came to me as well. And my second book, which here's the
dun,
Seven
dun,
Ways
dun,
to
dun,
Think
dun.
Differently,
7 ways to think differently. Yeah,
which is what I kind of say is like my response to what is permaculture. It's like the thinking changes and then what happens out in the world changes. So yeah, so that was one of the changes, and yeah, and then the sort of the cultural aspect and the I mean, I think it's just what since people and permaculture came out, and so that was 2012, so quite a long time ago, and so many thousands of people have used the design web, and I would say every one of them has been different. I mean, I haven't seen all of them, obviously, but I see a lot, because people share them with me and because I'm a permaculture diploma tutor. So I do see a lot, and it never ceases to amaze me, everyone's interpretations of that design process and the different ways people can use it. And yeah, my latest book, which is coming out at the end of the summer, is called Design Adventures,
oh
and
wow, that sounds amazing.
yeah, and it goes deep into the design web, and it really brings alive this idea that it is an adventure, that we don't know when we start something, we don't know where it will go. And that's what I see time and time again is like when you do land-based design and you plant an apple tree and you plant a rosemary bush and you plant you kind of you know what you're going to get. The apple tree will give you apples. But when you do a people-based design and you maybe say, oh, okay, I'm going to design for my health and well-being, I'm going to go for a walk every morning, and then you go for a walk and then you meet a neighbour who you've never met before, and then as you're standing there chatting, you're spying a piece of land that's been neglected, and then you go, oh, let's create a community garden there, and then you create a community garden there, and then get into a relationship and get married. There's all sorts of things that can spiral from a design, in a adventurous way that doesn't really happen on the land-based designs where you get apples. You might not know how sweet they are, but you get apples. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
no,
that
excellent. So this is what I was reading just this morning. Um, what is design? So it's like I also, you know, I was thinking with design, it's something complicated. I don't know, but 3 steps, and then I'll weave it a little bit into how I see playfulness as well. So the first one, observing where you are. Second step, awareness of where you want to get to, which is like you were saying at the beginning. You know, what would I like to? And then identifying the steps to get there. Boom, that's it. So I really like this importance of observing, and this is all. I also would say this is the first step in reclaiming our playfulness is really observing the things around us, that they all interact in a playful way. Small animals, small children, they're a bit more obvious that they how they play, but in delighting ourselves in this play around us as well, that's what wakens this more up into us. Um, so yeah, design in a nutshell: 3 steps: observing where you are, identifying the steps how to get there, and doing it right.
And the playful visioning into the future of like, well, wouldn't it be fun if, rather
Yes.
than oh, I've got to do this. And then I think the observation also brings us into the present moment. And I think when we are playing in whatever form that is, there is a being in the present moment, even if the present moment is imagining the future. So a bit paradox, but it's like, but we're here, we're present, we're not sort of caught up in like thoughts of the past or whatever. It's like there's a presentness in our being
Mm.
that I think it is engenders the playful side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope people listening to this are getting a slightly different take as well on permaculture, what this might mean. Um, I know that a lot of people, and me myself as well, sometimes feel like I'm a little bit guilty, as if like I'm not being a good enough permaculturist, or like, there's this funny aspect in there. I'm sure you've met this time and time again, Luby.
Well, I love there's so I've got some diploma apprentices and they came on they're doing the group diploma adventure with me and they came to a course here. I think it was the year before, and they connected around compost toilets, and then they were like, oh, like they're just laughing a lot all weekend around this and kind of like the shit metaphors. And then they were like they were talking about being like a shit permaculturist, and that like, yeah, we're not good enough. And then it's like how to transform ourselves from being a shit permaculturist into a shit hot permaculturist. And recognizing as well that we are all within a cultural context that doesn't really support us to be, those ethics of earth care, people care, and fair shares are often compromised by the cultural context we're in, because the cultural context, the mainstream cultures, does not prioritize any of those 3 ethics at all. In fact, actively working in the opposite direction, I would say, a lot of the time. And so we are swimming against the tide there, and sometimes it's hard, and sometimes we have to make a compromise. It's like, okay, I'd like to get the train, but the train takes 3 times as long, costs 4 times as much, as flying to the other side of Europe or wherever. So there's compromises, and sometimes we can do it, and sometimes we can't. So we could always swim in the, oh God, I'm not doing enough, I'm a shit permaculturist. We could always kind of be beating ourselves up and thinking we're not doing enough. But we can do what we can do, and it's a journey, and we have to enjoy the journey to those ethics, because otherwise what's the point? We're not going to enroll other people in it if we're like, oh God, I've got to do this gardening, or I've got to do this course, or I've got to do, if we're not
Yeah.
enjoying it, then other people aren't going to want to join in. Yeah, I'd love to take us to the cultural emergence toolkit, if that's all right.
Yes, yes, yes. I want to just add this, that happiness and being happy comes from all of this work and all of this mindset. It's not just like, oh, look at that person, they're happy, or look at this person. So I just wanted, it's an active thing. This being seeing things in a positive way without being, what's the word? But not seeing things as they are, right? So yeah, let's shift into cultural emergence. What is it?
Yeah, so I've it was one a reframe and also an evolution and also a collaboration. So one was the reframe of because permaculture is still thought of as gardening, and so I was kind of looking for a way. While people in permaculture did break through somewhat, it didn't quite do the whole myth busting that that could have been useful. So that was kind of part of it. Then the other was a collaboration between myself and John Young, who is a nature connection specialist over in America, and we were a mutual friend invited us to collaborate, and we both went, that sounds fun. And then we both went, well, we could just do what we do, you could do what you do normally and I could do what I do normally, and I was just like, or we could go in this like emergent space in between and see what happens. And so he was like, that sounds like fun, okay. Let's do that. So we did that, and we played. We played with the tools we had, and then more tools evolved, and principles and poetry, and so there's a whole toolkit that evolved around that, which I then put into another book, Cultural Emergence here, and toolkit for transforming ourselves in the world. So this came out of a lot of collaboration and play in the courses, and harvesting collective wisdom and deep thought, and evolving the design web in collaboration with John Young's model, the Eight Shields model, and then more coming out of that. We're in terms of awareness of culture. What does that really mean? It's a word we use all the time, but what does that actually mean? And recognizing that we need the cultural shifts, that is what we need, the cultural shifts, in order to do the shifts towards those ethics. And yeah, and then the principles arrived as well. And yeah, and so that is evolving into and growing into a global movement of people using the toolkit, and then coming back into play. A couple of years later, I thought, let's make it into a card deck so people can really play with this, and so the whole book is distilled into there's 96 cards, with different families there, with the design web and the Eight Shields model and all the practices and principles, and so I've there's a quote about permaculture from a friend of ours, Mike Feingold, who you look a bit like actually,
Yeah.
and he says, oh, permaculture is the revolution disguised as organic gardening. And then I'm
Mm,
thinking, maybe cultural emergence is the revolution disguised as a card deck, a card
yes.
game. So yeah, it's potent tools, and what I really love about them being a card deck is that they're very visual and tactile and fun to use and interactive, and
They
anyone
follow in a sequence, or is this like you pull one out?
you can potluck it. We can see, you can ask the cards a question and pick a card and see what the response is. I mean, do you want to try live here? We're
Yeah,
unprepared
yeah. A question. A
question.
question. What kind? Like any sort of question. Um. Okay. I'll ask this question. So, how can I, um, how can I transmit this message of playfulness and get more people to play together?
Okay. Okay, so I've got two decks mixed up here, so it's obviously this one's wanting to
It
come
was
out.
obviously that one, whatever it is.
Yeah, this is be attentive to shifts, openings, and opportunities. The world is forever changing, shifting, and evolving. Observation is key. Follow the energy of the moment. Visit flowers when they are open.
Oh, wow.
So what does that say to you in response then to your question?
Um,
Maybe while you're
yeah,
thinking, let's pull another card as well, because I
yeah,
often
yeah.
find
Let's put another card as well.
useful to have two.
It says follow things, right? Follow like a bee. He zaps all around the place from place to place. Um, but at the same time, he's really, or she is really present. You know, it's like that next flower, the next flower, the next flower.
Hmm. So I've got this one as well, which is pulled for you, which is growing in effectiveness.
Ah, that sounds
Be
lovely.
clear on the effect you want to have. Utilize your time, energy, and resources well, and your designs and contributions to the world will have maximum effect. Our capacity increases as we become more and more effective. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's definitely something there. It's like I don't know. You probably know something about website building, but I'm just about to put like a my services page on my website, and it's been like 5 years in the process, to understand like what it is actually I'm offering. It sounds bizarre, sounds absolutely bizarre, but I'm at this point now. So yeah, without people knowing what I'm offering, it's not very effective, right? And effectiveness totally talks to me. Yeah.
Mm.
So you want to pull
And
out
that
another one just for fun?
being clear on the effect you want to have. So that's like, well,
Yes.
what is the message you're trying to convey with engaging people in playfulness? And so being really clear on that. Yeah, you would like another one?
Yeah,
Why
I
not?
guess yeah, be clear on the messages that yeah, when we come into our playfulness, our health benefits from it, our mental health benefits from it, our relationships benefit from it. Um, it's a two-way cycle. Our nervous system relaxes, but also when our nervous system relaxes, we're more playful. So we come into a virtuous cycle of things. Yeah. What's this next card you pulled
And
out?
yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna see if maybe you could maybe if I'll show you a few of them and you can.
and I guess it's about simplicity as well, because I'm a juggler, and jugglers make things terribly complicated. It's part of the fun of it, but really, we don't need much to have fun. Also,
Yeah.
that one in the middle there, there's
Which one was
that
that?
one's that's the one. That one,
The
yeah.
one with music.
Oh, it's a music one.
Music. Be attentive to timing. Wait for the right moment. Feel the music in your body and create green agreements around timing.
Yes, yes. This thing about timing is so important. Um, Personally, I often feel a little bit impatient. Um, but yeah, I'm 50 now, so I can continue this work for 20 years like easily. So I'm sowing the seeds, right? Sowing the seeds. Um, yeah, being patient.
Yeah, and
But
I was thinking about this kind of the shifts and the timings of kind of like what's happening out there around the conversations of play, that there might be an opening for more conversations about play that happen. One, you can also create those shifts yourself, but two, you can also be listening out and seeing where are those shifts in the mainstream conversation around it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Luby,
so
so what let's come to like some final words from you, something that you think like, yeah, this is something I want to add to this, and then also share about how people can learn from you as well, right? and I don't know if you want to talk a little about your land, or I don't know, wrap it up somehow.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll start with my land, which is Applewood Permaculture Centre, and we found this through a design process using the design web to really make the commitment and make the steps towards our vision. And yeah, it's a beautiful piece of land here, and I think play and nature connection and community, creating a community for a while is some of the things that people really get out of this. It's like, okay, let's take the learning out of out of the square box classroom and into open air spaces and into its circles. And so, yeah, people really love coming to Applewood, and we have volunteer weeks and courses, but like cultural emergence courses as well as land-based permaculture courses here. So and teach training. So yeah, really would love to invite people into the in-person space at Applewood. And I know not everyone can travel here, so I do a lot of online learning as well. And I still try to bring that playfulness into the online learning spaces. And I've got taster courses and other free resources as well. So the free taster course and other design adventures happening online. Even been doing one about refreshing our homes. So even turning like the spring cleaning and the decluttering into a playful activity has been really helpful. So yeah, and people can get my books and the card deck from me, all signed copies that I send around the world. So yeah, it's great to connect with people in that way. And if people sign up to my newsletter, they get the Cultural Emergence Principles colouring book, so you can just straight away get playful with interacting with the principles as well. So yeah, please, if you do nothing else, sign up to my newsletter on which is and see my website, which is cultural-emergence.com. And yeah, so that's how people can stay in contact with me. And I think some final thoughts for me is to see how play can can be part of whatever you're doing. So, how can you, when you're waiting for the bus, just be playful with what you're observing around you, or having a little chat with a neighbour, or when you're doing the washing up, how can you turn that into a more fun activity by putting some music on and moving your body? It's like, how can you do that on all the time so that you are really engendering play, being having a playful life rather than I'm going to go and play now, and seeing it as something separate, seeing so it becomes integrated and then becomes part of who you are. And what people love about being around you is because you have that playful spirit in you in other ways as well. So that would be, I think, something that I would invite people to do, and to yeah, use the design web in a playful way and the cultural emergence cards to encourage some playfulness while making significant and profound changes in your life as well. It's like we often get kind of caught in the narrative of change is hard and you have to work at change, and it's going to be a struggle and you might have to surrender and there might be sacrifice. Actually, changes, and the really good changes that stay there for a long time, often can come about quite easily and playfully in our lives. So we can see our move into a regenerative future as a playful journey, as an adventure that invites other people. And John Young talks about like having more fun than the kids. That's the goal. More fun than the kids, because then the kids will look at you and be like, oh, I want to do that. Whereas if we're all serious about making these like, oh God, we've got to get head towards a regenerative future, it's going to be loads of sacrifice and hard work and not fun, it doesn't really enroll people. So being playful and fun is what encourages people to join in, and I'm certainly having so much fun in my life. It was, the best sentence I ever spoke out loud was, "Wouldn't it be fun to be a permaculture teacher?" um, and I'm just, yeah, really grateful that I've managed to do that and managed to feel my purpose as well, to feel that me being playful is purposeful in encouraging other people into their best lives and their best selves in whatever they want to do. Yeah.
Thank you, Luby. Thank you so much. What a beautiful end to this conversation. Um, Thank you for everybody who's listened or watched this video until this point. Please share your comments in the links, and it's always interesting to hear how the conversations resonate with people, with you, and thank you, Luby.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.